Howard Cosell walks into a dim bar in Manhattan and sees Muhammad Ali sitting alone in the corner booth, nursing a glass of water. Not champagne, not surrounded by admirers. Just water, just silence. Just the former heavyweight champion of the world, stripped of his title, banned from boxing, facing 5 years in prison, sitting in the shadows like a ghost of what he used to be. Cosell stops at the entrance. His producer told him Ali might be here. Told him Ali's been coming to this place most nights since the Supreme Court hearing. Since the boxing commissions took his license. Since the government took his passport. Since America took everything except his name. And they're trying to take that too. Trying to make people forget Muhammad Ali and only remember Cassius Clay, the Louisville Lip, the pretty boy who danced and rhymed and made white America laugh before he made them angry. Cosell should walk away, should leave Ali alone with whatever demons are chasing him tonight. But Cosell doesn't walk away. Because Howard Cosell has never walked away from a story, and Muhammad Ali is the biggest story in sports, maybe the biggest story in America even now, especially now, in his exile and disgrace. So Cosell walks toward that corner booth. His footsteps echo on the hardwood floor. The bar is nearly empty. Just a couple of old men at the counter, a bartender wiping glasses. And Ali, 25 years old, the most famous athlete in the world, sitting alone like he's trying to disappear. New York City, April 1967, 3 weeks after Muhammad Ali refused to step forward at the Armed Forces Induction Center in Houston. 3 weeks after he said the words that cost him everything. I ain't got no quarrel with them Viet Cong. No Viet Cong ever called me nigger. 3 weeks after America decided that a man who could take a punch couldn't take a stand. The bar smells like stale beer and old wood and decades of cigarette smoke soaked into the walls. The lighting is low, amber and shadow. The kind of place where people come to hide from the world outside, from responsibilities and consequences and the weight of choices that can't be undone. Ali doesn't look up when Cosell reaches the table, just stares at his glass of water like it contains answers to questions he's afraid to ask. Can I sit? Cosell asks. Ali's eyes flick up. Recognition, not surprise. Like he knew this conversation was coming eventually. Knew someone would find him. And if it had to be someone, better Cosell than most. Free country, Ali says quietly. Then adds with a trace of his old humor. Supposedly. Cosell sits, sets his briefcase on the floor, takes off his glasses, cleans them with his handkerchief, a nervous habit, something to do with his hands, while he figures out what to say. They sit in silence for maybe 30 seconds, long enough for the weight of everything unsaid to settle between them like a third person at the table. Finally, Cosell speaks. His voice is gentler than his television voice. No bombast, no performance, just two men talking. How are you holding up? Ali shrugs. I'm breathing. That's something. The legal team thinks, I don't want to talk about lawyers, Howard. I don't want to talk about appeals or the Supreme Court or any of it. Not tonight. Cosell nods, puts his glasses back on, studies Ali's face, sees the exhaustion, the weight. 25 years old and already carrying a burden that would crush most men twice his age. Then what do you want to talk about? Nothing. Ali takes a sip of water. I came here to not talk, to not think, to just sit. Then why'd you let me sit down? Ali almost smiles. Good question. The bartender approaches, asks Cosell what he's drinking. Cosell orders scotch. Neat. The bartender nods, walks away. Returns a minute later with the drink. Cosell pays. The bartender leaves them alone again. Cosell takes a sip, grimaces slightly. It's cheap scotch, but that's not why he's here. Can I be honest with you? Cosell asks. You're always honest, Howard. It's what makes you insufferable. I think you made a mistake. The words hang in the air. Ali's jaw tightens, but he doesn't respond, doesn't defend, just waits for Cosell to continue. You could have been the greatest boxer who ever lived, Cosell says. You were 25 years old, in your prime, undefeated. You had speed nobody else had, charisma nobody else had. You could have fought for another 10 years, could have defended your title 20, 30 times, could have been undeniable, unquestionable, the greatest of all time. Cosell pauses, takes another drink. But you threw it all away. For what? For a principle that most people don't even agree with? For a war protest that's going to get you branded a coward and a traitor? For a religious organization that most of America thinks is a hate group? Ali's voice is very quiet. You finished? No. Cosell leans forward. I'm trying to understand. I'm trying to figure out why a man who had everything, fame, money, respect, a chance at immortality, would throw it all away. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you destroyed yourself. And for what? What did you actually accomplish? You think I destroyed myself. I think you'll never box again. I think the government will make an example of you. I think in 20 years, people won't remember Muhammad Ali, the fighter. They'll remember Muhammad Ali, the controversy, the footnote, the guy who refused the draft and disappeared. Silence. Complete silence. The old men at the bar laugh at something. The sound feels intrusive, inappropriate, like laughter at a funeral. Then Ali speaks. His voice is still quiet, but there's steel underneath now, something solid and unbreakable. Can I ask you something, Howard? Of course. Why do you think you're the most respected sports broadcaster in America? Cosell blinks. Wasn't expecting that question. What? You heard me. Why do people respect you? Why do athletes talk to you when they won't talk to other reporters? Why do you have the career you have? Cosell considers. Because I tell the truth. Because I don't pander. Because I ask the hard questions. Exactly. Ali leans forward now. You tell the truth even when it's uncomfortable. Even when sponsors complain. Even when the network gets angry. Even when telling the truth costs you money or makes you unpopular. You do it anyway because you believe in something bigger than your career. You believe in honesty, in integrity, in being more than just a voice reading scores. That's different. Is it? Ali cuts him off. You're a Jewish man in a business that didn't want Jewish men. You fought to get where you are. You refused to change your name. Refused to hide your identity. Refused to make yourself more palatable to people who wanted you to be something you're not. Isn't that right? Cosell is quiet. Because Ali's right. Howard Cosell was born Howard Cohen, changed his last name to Cosell, but refused to change it further. Refused to go full WASP. Kept his identity even when it cost him opportunities early in his career. So don't sit there, Ali continues, and tell me I threw away my career for principles when you built your entire career on the same damn thing. Principles. Integrity. Refusing to compromise who you are for what other people want you to be. But I didn't refuse to serve my country. Your country. Ali's voice rises slightly. Not angry, passionate. Howard, when did this become my country? When I was born here and couldn't eat at lunch counters because of the color of my skin? When I won an Olympic gold medal for America and came home to Louisville and still couldn't get served at restaurants? When I became heavyweight champion and people still called me boy and uppity and told me to know my place? He pauses, breathes, continues quieter. You want to know what I accomplished? You want to know why I refused that draft? Let me tell you something. Something true. Something I need you to understand. Cosell leans back, listening now. Really listening. I didn't refuse the draft because I'm a coward, Ali says. I refused because I'm not a coward. Because it would have been easier, so much easier to just go. To put on the uniform. To do the press tours they wanted me to do. to never see combat because the army would have protected their heavyweight champion, to come home a hero and keep making millions and keep my title and keep my life exactly as it was. Then why didn't you? Because that would have been a lie. Ali's voice cracked slightly, just slightly. My whole life, Howard, my whole life, I've been told to compromise, to be quieter, to be less threatening, to make white people comfortable. First, they wanted me to be Cassius Clay instead of Muhammad Ali. Then they wanted me to abandon the Nation of Islam. Then they wanted me to support a war I don't believe in, to fight people I have no reason to hate, to kill in the name of a country that still treats my people like we're less than human. He stops, collects himself, and I realize something. I realize that every time I compromised, every time I made myself smaller or quieter or more palatable, I lost a piece of myself. I became less me and more what they wanted me to be. And I looked ahead, and I saw a future where I was heavyweight champion and rich and famous and completely empty inside because I'd traded everything I believed in for things that don't actually matter. The title matters. Does it? Ali looks at Cosell, really looks at him. 20 years from now, 30 years from now, what's going to matter more? That I held a belt and defended it a few more times? Or that I stood up and said no to the most powerful government in the world and meant it? That I was willing to lose everything, the title, the money, my freedom for something I believed in? Cosell has no answer. You asked what I accomplished, Ali continues. I'll tell you. I showed people, black people especially, but not just black people, anyone paying attention, that you don't have to do what the powerful people tell you to do, that you can stand up, that you can say no, that you can lose everything the world says matters, and still have the only thing that actually matters, which is yourself, your integrity, your soul. Ali's voice is fierce now. Certain, Howard, they can take my title, they can take my license, they can take my passport and my money and my freedom. They can put me in prison for 5 years, but they cannot take who I am. They cannot make me betray myself. And that is the only victory that actually matters in the end. The words settle, heavy, true. Cosell's hands are shaking slightly. He sets down his glass before Ali can notice. You think I'm going to be a footnote? Ali asks. You think people are going to forget me? Maybe. Maybe you're right. Maybe in 20 years, nobody remembers Muhammad Ali except as a controversy. But you know what? I'll remember. I'll know that when it mattered most, when everything was on the line, I didn't betray myself. I didn't compromise. I didn't become what they wanted me to be. And Howard, that knowledge that I stood up when standing up cost me everything that's worth more than any championship belt. Cosell takes off his glasses again. His eyes are wet. I have a daughter, Cosell says quietly. Jill. She's 15. Ali waits. Last week, she asked me about you, about what you did, about refusing the draft, and I gave her the line everyone's giving, that you were wrong, that you broke the law, that you disrespected the country, the safe answer, the comfortable answer. He pauses, and she looked at me like I'd disappointed her, like I was supposed to be better than that. She said, Dad, you always taught me to stand up for what I believe in. You always said integrity matters more than what people think. So why are you criticizing someone for doing exactly that? Cosell's voice breaks. And I didn't have an answer. Because she was right. Because I've spent my whole career telling athletes to be authentic, to be honest, to be more than just performers. And the moment one of them actually does it, the moment you actually put everything on the line for a principle, I criticized you for it. I took the safe position. I protected my career instead of defending what I claimed to believe in. Ali reaches across the table, puts his hand on Cosell's shoulder. You're here now, Ali says gently. That's what matters. I don't know if I can defend you publicly, Cosell says. The network, my sponsors, I could lose everything. Then don't. Ali squeezes his shoulder. I'm not asking you to sacrifice your career for me. I'm just asking you to understand. To know that what I did because I had to. Because living a lie, even a profitable, comfortable, celebrated lie, wasn't living at all. They sit in silence. The bartender approaches, asks if they need anything else. Both men shake their heads. The bartender leaves. Can I tell you something? Ali says. Something I haven't told anyone else? Please. I'm terrified. Ali's voice is barely a whisper. I'm 25 years old and I don't know if I'll ever fight again. I don't know if I'm going to prison. I don't know if my career is over before it really started. I lie awake at night wondering if I made the biggest mistake of my life. If I threw away everything for nothing. If the sacrifice was worth it. And then morning comes, and I remember why I did it. And I know that even if I never fight again, even if I go to prison, even if the whole world forgets me, I'll be able to look at myself in the mirror. I'll be able to tell my children someday that when it mattered, their father stood for something, that he didn't just talk about principles, he lived them. Ali's hand drops from Cosell's shoulder. That's what I accomplished, Howard. I proved to myself that I'm more than just a boxer, that I'm a man with a conscience and a soul, and a line I won't cross, no matter what it costs. Cosell puts his glasses back on, looks at Ali, sees him differently now, not as the controversial athlete, not as the troublemaker, but as something rare, someone willing to pay the full price for integrity. What are you going to do? Cosell asks. Keep fighting, not in the ring, in the courts, in the press, anywhere that will listen. I'm going to speak. I'm going to make them hear me. I'm going to make sure that if they're going to destroy me, they have to do it in public. They have to explain why a man who stands up for his beliefs is a criminal, while men who lie and compromise and betray themselves are heroes. That's going to be a hard fight. I know, but I've never backed down from a hard fight. Cosell finishes his drink, stands up, extends his hand. Ali takes it. I can't promise I'll defend you publicly, Cosell says. Not yet. But I promise I'll think about what you said. Really think about it. That's all I'm asking. But here's what you don't know yet. Howard Cosell leaves that bar and drives home in silence. Doesn't turn on the radio. Doesn't rehearse tomorrow's broadcast. Just drives and thinks and feels something shifting inside him. When he gets home, his daughter Jill is still awake, studying at the kitchen table. How's Ali? She asks. Cosell pauses, sits down across from her. He's the most courageous person I've ever met. Jill looks up, surprised. I was wrong about him, Cosell says. I was wrong, and you were right. And tomorrow, I'm going to start making it right. The next day, on his radio broadcast, Howard Cosell says something no one expected. He defends Muhammad Ali. Not weakly, not with qualifications, fully, passionately. He tells America that Ali isn't a coward, he's the opposite. That refusing to fight a war you don't believe in takes more courage than following orders. That Ali represents the best of American values, the freedom to dissent, to protest, to stand up to your government when you believe it's wrong. The network gets hundreds of complaint calls. Sponsors threaten to pull out. Cosell's bosses call him into a meeting, tell him to back off, tell him he's risking his career. Cosell refuses. For the next 3 years, while Ali is banned from boxing, while his case works through the courts, while America calls him a traitor, Howard Cosell is his most passionate defender in the media, the most visible, the most consistent. Other journalists mock Cosell for it, call him Ali's lapdog, say he's lost his objectivity, accuse him of being soft. But Cosell doesn't care, because he learned something in that bar, something Ali taught him without meaning to. That the only career worth having is one you can live with. That defending someone who's right but unpopular is the entire point of journalism. That integrity isn't integrity if it only shows up when it's convenient. Years later, after the Supreme Court overturns Ali's conviction, after Ali comes back and reclaims his title, after Ali becomes beloved by the same America that once hated him, a reporter asks Cosell why he defended Ali when nobody else would. Cosell thinks for a moment, then says, "Because he showed me what courage looks like, not in the ring, in life. He showed me that standing up for what you believe in isn't about winning, it's about refusing to live a lie. And once you see someone do that, really do it, pay the full price for it, you can't unsee it. You can't go back to being the comfortable version of yourself." That conversation in the bar lasted 8 minutes. 8 minutes that created a friendship lasting 30 years. 8 minutes that changed how Howard Cosell saw his own career. 8 minutes that taught both men the same lesson: that the things we lose when we stand up for our principles are never as valuable as what we'd lose if we didn't. Muhammad Ali lost his title, his money, 3 years of his prime. But he kept his soul. And Howard Cosell learned that sometimes the best story isn't about who won the fight. It's about who had the courage to stand up when sitting down would have been easier. That night in the bar, Ali didn't just defend his decision to Cosell. He showed him what it means to be more than your career, more than your image, more than what the world wants you to be. He showed him what it means to be yourself, completely and unapologetically, no matter what it costs. And 50 years later, we remember both men not for being perfect, but for being principled, for standing up when standing up meant standing alone, for teaching us that courage isn't about never being afraid. It's about being terrified and doing the right thing anyway. That's the legacy of one conversation in a dim bar in Manhattan. That's what happens when two men stop performing and start being honest. That's what changed Howard Cosell from Muhammad Ali's critic to his defender. 3 words Ali said that night: "I proved myself." Not to the world, to himself. And once you do that, the world's opinion doesn't matter anymore. That's the lesson. That's the power. That's what made Howard Cosell cry.